The NBA draft is right around the corner, and every year brings in a new wave of young talent ready to make their mark at the next level. The 2026 NBA draft has been one of the most anticipated classes in recent memory, headlined by prospects like Aday Dybantsa, Darryn Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and many more talented players looking to begin their NBA journeys. Today, I'll be going pick by pick through my 2026 NBA Mock Draft Lottery Edition, breaking down each team's fit, why I have each prospect landed where, their strengths and weaknesses, and what type of impact they could have at the next level. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of Hardware Hoops, presented by DJ Sports Show with your host, DJ Hamilton. If you love basketball, know anyone who loves basketball, make sure to share and subscribe to the YouTube channel and share anybody you know who loves basketball. Without further ado, let's get into my mock draft. And at number one, I have the Wizards selecting Aday Dybantsa, the forward out of BYU. And I think he fits perfectly with what the Wizards are trying to do. They need someone who's a box office appeal and attraction to pair with Trae Young, who they hope to re-sign this offseason. Hopefully they don't trade away AD. But if you add Dybantsa to this Wizards team, 6'9", 210 pounds, 7'1" wingspan, he's a dynamic scoring wing who brings two-way ability, and he's developing his playmaking skills. I've never seen a teenager, or one of the rare teenagers I've ever seen, who's such a dynamic shot creator and elite scorer. He was 40% on mid-range jumpers this season. He could generate offense against anybody you put him up against because due to his size and skill, he's around 6'9", 6'10". He could score from all three levels. He could penetrate and get to the rim and apply pressure. He has an advanced offensive arsenal you just don't see from teenagers. And he has those herky-jerky moves and counter moves. And he has superb coordination. The Wizards need a guy like that. This is a Wizards team. They're going to need a scorer and a bucket getter, especially if they're a team I think that has the talent to take a jump next year. If Trae Young stay healthy, Anthony Davis, they don't give him away and he stays on the team, and then they do draft Dybantsa, this is a team I could see maybe making a play-in or playoffs next year, maybe as a 7-6 seed in the Eastern Conference. And Dybantsa can add and be additive to this team. He was one of only two freshmen in NCAA history since 1995-96 alongside Michael Beasley to average 25 points, 6.5 rebounds while shooting over 50% from the field with over 6 win shares and a usage rate above 30%. So it's not just he's just scoring. He had to take on such a big load at BYU, and he was able to do it at an efficient level. So that shows that he could be that franchise cornerstone. He could be that superstar that he could take the load, put it on his shoulders, and help your team win. Obviously, they didn't make it far in the NCAA tournament because obviously he was gassed by that point. He had to do so much in that game, and there was nobody else that could create their own shot. At the NBA level, that would be different. He'd be playing with a guy in Trae Young, who's an elite playmaker, who's led the league in assists twice throughout his career. He's an all-star level point guard. He'll be able to set him up for easy looks and make the offensive game easier for him. That way he doesn't have to spend so much energy creating his own shot. And I think that in turn will help improve his defensive abilities as well and his energy on that level, which we'll get into as well because I think he has potential to be a great defender, but he didn't really show that as much at BYU. But he also improved as a playmaker over the course of the season, especially once Richie Saunders went down with that torn ACL. He became more of the primary initiator with the ball in his hands and displaying potential as a secondary playmaker, which I could see him doing at the NBA level if he continues to develop as a processor on the offensive end with his passing ability. Sometimes I feel like his reads are a little bit slow or he's a little late to it, and I think that's something he'll need to improve on. He has a remarkable elasticity. He has freakishly long arms. He's innately skilled at finishing with either hand too. 63% at the rim, 57% in transition. And he just draws contact like a polished veteran. He is just a high basketball IQ scorer. He knows how to get to the foul line, get himself going, and he just knows how to finish. And you can't really stop him. You force him left, he can finish with the left hand. You go him right, that's a strong hand. He could dunk on you, finish with a freakish layup, or he could stop midi pull up, catch you on a dime, and hit that mid-range jumper. Some of his weaknesses, I think the defensive instincts are still developing. They're still getting better. I think he has potential on that end. But when I looked at his stocks production, when you combine steals and blocks, 1.4 together, that's kind of low for someone with his physical tools. He can kind of get a bit gamble heavy rather than staying disciplined. And then his shooting can be a little bit streaky at times. He's 33% from beyond the arc. He's not really consistent all the time with his three-point shot. And sometimes he takes some bad shots. So that's what we expect from a teenager who's an elite scorer. And then turnovers. For someone who handled the ball so much, had so much of the offensive load and responsibility, especially when Saunders went down with the torn ACL, Dybantsa did have some turnovers, 3.1 turnovers per game. I think that was kind of due to some of his decision-making. He made some erratic decisions at times with the basketball in his hands, and his handle could get a little tighter. Even though he has a good handle, I think he needs to get his handle tighter in traffic to maneuver certain situations, especially double teams that he's going to face at the NBA level. And sometimes in half-court situations, he can kind of force the issue. I think he's more comfortable out in space or when he's playing one-on-one. I think he needs to get stronger so he can get better at his open contact, even though he's already great at it already. But I think he's somebody who he's worked with guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Paul George. He's gotten to see what it takes to be great. And I think that's going to help him as he now enters his NBA career. So Dybantsa, I think, is going to be a high upside wing scorer with elite athletic tools. He's strong, applying pressure to the rim, and he has a developing perimeter shooting game that will determine his NBA ceiling. I compare him to like a Tracy McGrady, his high-end ceiling. Jalen, maybe a better version of Jaylen Brown. Those two-way wings who are just dynamic athletically, who can score in bunches on all three levels and defend as well. And he also reminds me a little bit of DeMar DeRozan, especially if his three-point shot doesn't really develop. I could see him become like a DeMar DeRozan type, an all-star type wing who never really becomes an elite defender, but also is not an elite three-point shooter, but his mid-range game and scoring arsenal is just too good, where his floor is still a really high-end NBA starter, all-star potential type player. And he reminds me a little bit of Paul George as well, because he has that kind of similar frame. So I think Dybantsa is going to be a potential superstar. I see MVP potential from him. I think he could be that type of guy. I think Dybantsa, maybe Caleb Wilson could challenge him, but Dybantsa to me has the highest ceiling in this draft class. There was so many games throughout the season. He played enormous amount of time, sometimes full games, and he still went out there and it didn't look like he was tired. And if I'm an NBA team and franchise, I'm looking for a guy to be our cornerstone, our future face of the franchise to help us win. He's my guy. I want a guy because I know he's going to play. He's going to come out every night, play hard, and I don't have to worry about his conditioning. I think he could pair perfectly with Alex Sarr, who I think is ascending into the right direction. We saw a lot of promise with him, and they have other key young players on that team as well. Trey Johnson, I think, will be a good bench scorer coming off the bench next year for this team. And they just have a lot of great young pieces. The Wizards right now, if they can get this right, they look like they're going in the right direction, because I think he's going to bring a different competitiveness and culture to this Wizards team that they haven't had in a while. So number one, I have Aday Mara. Number two now, this is where it gets interesting, because we can go either, there's the rumors out there of Cameron Boozer or Darryn Peterson. Number two, I have Darryn Peterson, the guard out of Kansas, going to the Utah Jazz. 6'5", 205 pounds, 6'10" wingspan. Now, Darryn Peterson is a very polarizing prospect because let's get into some of his strengths. He's a prototypical modern day combo guard with elite 3-level scoring package. He's polished on the end. I think he's going to be a high-level movement shooter in the class. He can generate his own offense in isolation or within structure. He's effective off-ball movement is amongst the best in the class, whether off pin downs or just coming off screen. He has a high quick release with smooth, repeatable shooting mechanics, and he's comfortable operating as a perimeter scorer in multiple actions. When I look at the Jazz, they were 25th in three-point percentage last season at 34.5%. I think Peterson fits perfectly with what they're trying to do. I know they have Keontae George there who could play the 1 or the 2. Peterson classifies himself as a 1 or as a point guard. I think he's a shooting guard. We'll see how they play him, because I think he's more of a natural scorer than a playmaker. But when I looked at some of his film and then the stats, 38% from 3 on 7 attempts per game. So not only is he's a high volume shooter, but he converts on it at a pretty high clip. And if I'm the Jazz, I know Carlos Boozer's part of that Utah Jazz organization. He's kind of in the vicinities of things, but I don't know his son will be available at number 2. But I think Peterson, as much as I love Cam Boozer, I know there's a lot of questions about Peterson's competitiveness. Can he stay healthy, especially with the situation that went on with Kansas, where he was exiting games in the second half, leaving games and trying to come out and things of that nature. But when you look at the talent and what he can do, and when I looked at his high school tape again, man, that dude looked like the next coming of Kobe Bryant. The athleticism, the 3-level scoring package, the tough shot making, it's incredible. I think him and Dybantsa are the best shot creators and shot makers in this draft class. You could make an argument he should be number 1. I think if he didn't have such a weird season, he was the favorite to go number 1 in this class. He could still go number 1 to the Wizards. He was 45% on catch and shoot threes. He has strong off-ball efficiency, 53% on spot-up shooting. So not only can he do it on the move, he can do it as off-ball threat. And I think that fits perfectly with the Utah Jazz, because that means he doesn't need the ball in his hands, because you're going to be playing with a Keontae George that's going to be there. Lauri Markkanen is a big man who can play off the ball, but also can create his own shot. And that's going to make their offense more cohesive and more of a collective unit. And it's a Jazz team next year. I know they're looking to win next year. They traded for Darryn Jackson Jr. They got Lauri Markkanen, Keontae George. They got this number 2 draft pick. Walker Kessler, we'll see if he ends up staying there or if they let him go. But this is a really great young team. Ace Bailey, hopefully we'll see if they keep him because there's some rumors they might trade him. I like the pieces, what they're building in Utah. They got something special going on. I think it's a team where we can see the rise starting next year. Kind of similar. I don't think it's going to be like anything like the Spurs, but maybe that team that we like lottery, and then they can make the postseason next year and make some noise, and then they continue to build from that. I think this is the perfect fit for them. He was a 95th percentile perimeter shooter, 1.26 points per possession according to Hoops Explorer. He's a clear movement shooter with elite floor spacing. He moves well without the ball. I think you could plug him into many offensive systems as a floor spacer, and I think he fits into many NBA teams. I think he could fit perfectly with the Wizards. He could fit perfectly with the Jazz. I don't know about Memphis because they already got Cedric Coward there, but I think he fits with the Bulls as well. He fits into so many different offensive systems just because his portability as a shooter and be able to move without the ball. He has great size at 6'5", 6'6", around that area, and he has long arms. So I think he'll be able to defend the 1s and 2s at the NBA level. He's a disruptive on-ball defender, 1.4 steals per game. In his 1 season at Kansas, he has solid lateral movement, and we'll see how much stronger he gets. I think that will ultimately determine his defensive ceiling. Because if he gets a little stronger, maybe even guard some threes at the NBA level. Some of my weaknesses for him, how will he hold up in an 82-game season plus playoffs, especially assuming they make the playoffs? Does he have that mentality and work ethic to be a franchise cornerstone? Because a team is making millions of dollars of investments on you to help them win. You're expected to be a franchise guy as in the top 4 or 5 pick. Does he have that mentality? Was this a one-off where weird things just happened this season with the cramps and things coming out the games due to the cramps at Kansas, or is this, a routine that we're going to see going into the NBA where he's going to be like a Kawhi, where he's kind of low managing? I hope this was a one-off because when I watched him in high school, I was like, this guy's legit. He's one of the best scoring prospects I've ever seen for someone this young. The polish, the mechanics, his shot is beautiful. The form, the follow through, the guide hand. Whoever taught him well, because it's like almost picture perfect the way his shot form is. It's beautiful to watch. One thing I have also, he's not a true offensive initiator. He only averaged 1.5 assists per game to 1.5 turnovers per game on 33% usage rate. He'll need to improve his ability to see the floor and become a true secondary distributor. His acceleration and lift kind of declined at Kansas compared to his days of prolific prep. I think that kind of caused him to struggle with creating separation against athletic, strong defenders on drives to the rim. So that's something I want to see. Does he get that back? Now that he says he feels great, he feels like he's back to his high school days. We'll see in the summer league how he looks. But I think overall, Peterson is a high usage scoring guard with elite shot creation, the tools to become a primary NBA offensive option. His efficiency and playmaking consistency will determine his ceiling. He reminds me of Ray Allen, Brandon Roy, Devin Booker. Those are the players he reminds me of. Those type of shooting guards where they're not super athletic. That's why I don't really see the Kobe comparison. Some people said, maybe he's like the second half of Kobe's career, number 24, when he was not as athletic, but he was so skilled. I could see that maybe as a ceiling. I think Peterson fits perfectly what the Jazz need, and I think he fit well amongst Keontae George. That can make a dynamic young backcourt. Or maybe you bring Keontae George off the bench and have Peterson be the starting lead guard and see what he can do. But I think I would play those two together because I think they could feed off each other and complement one another. So Peterson to me at number 2 to the Utah Jazz just makes sense, and I think he's the best pick there for Utah. At number 3 now, I have Caleb Wilson, the forward out of North Carolina, going to the Memphis Grizzlies. This is a new era for the Memphis Grizzlies. They're trying to move off Ja Morant. They already traded away Triple J, Desmond Bane over the last couple seasons. Clearly trying to move into a new direction. They have something in Cedric Coward, who I think will be a solid NBA player for the foreseeable future. Zach Edey's a solid starting center. But they need someone who could put fans in seats as they look to move off Ja Morant. And I think Wilson does that perfectly for the Memphis Grizzlies. 6'10", 210 pounds, 7-foot wingspan. He's probably the most explosive north to south athlete in the entire class. He is freakishly athletic. He dunks with a ferocity. It's like somebody took his lunch money. Okay? Caleb Wilson is a violent downhill attacker who plays above the rim with force and physicality. He embraces the contact. He led the NCAA dunks before he suffered his hand injury. He has 67. He is aggressive, and I love that about him. He needs to polish some things, but he's the type of athlete who I think can energize an arena and put constant pressure on the rim in transition. And if I'm the Memphis Grizzlies and I want to put fans in seats to bring a main attraction to our games and give fans a reason to come, especially if you move off Ja Morant, and even if you don't, he's proven he can't stay healthy the last couple of years. Wilson is my guy. I know some people have Cam Boozer going here. I think Wilson can be special, man. I know he's raw in shooting and creating off the bounce, but his mentality, the way he speaks, the confidence he has, his work ethic, you don't pass up on that. He's a fierce competitor who plays with a relentless motor and edge. He has that toughness, that intensity, every possession on both ends. He fits the identity of the Memphis grit and grind culture, and I think he could be the key piece to ushering in the post-Ja Morant era as the franchise cornerstone. His mentality and competitiveness stands out to me just as much as athleticism. People kind of look at him, they think, oh, he's just a rim runner or dunker, but no, he's also a guy who can operate in the mid-post area. He has a little turnaround fadeaway from the baseline. He has a little go. That's his little go-to counter move. And I think there's some untapped potential in his shot creation. I think we'll see more of that unlocked at the NBA level as he continues to get better, work with better trainers, and work on that aspect of his game. But all at UNC, he had a historic season. The only UNC freshman in history to average 19 or more points, 9 rebounds, a steal, a block on 50% shooting from the field or better. And his defensive upside, quick feet, strong lateral mobility, that allows him to stay in front of drivers. He has great instincts as a weak side defender. He rotates well on blocks, disrupts opponents' driving lanes, and he's excellent at getting out in passing lanes, pinning shots off the glass. I think he's going to be a multi-positional defender who can create transition opportunities and kind of be a weak side rim protector as well. Handle needs to get a little bit tighter, kind of lose the ball at times. I want to see him get better at separation off the dribble, especially in half-court settings. Kind of seems a little stagnant and kind of looks a little hesitant sometimes and trying to create his own shot in half-court settings. He can blow by most big men, and he's too tall for most smaller defenders that are going to guard him. So he's going to be a mismatch nightmare, especially if that shooting improves. I think he's more effective right now in attacking advantages than just creating for himself. But I think that'll improve as his outside shooting will be his major swing skill. Because if he improves the outside shooting, he goes from a guy who could be maybe a good starter to a potential MVP type player. I see him guarding 3s and 4s. Right now he's a little bit too slender to guard 5s. But I think once maybe 3-4 years from now, he'll be able to do that. I think he's a high upside two-way forward with elite athletic tools and defensive potential. His best case scenario for me is dynamic two-way star who impact winning on both ends. He reminds me of a little bit of a baby Giannis. Chris Bosh, I see a little bit in him as well. Even a young Kevin Garnett. Those are my comparisons for Caleb Wilson. I think he's going to be special. He can end up being the best player from this draft. If everything goes right with him, we could be looking back 5-10 years from now and saying Caleb Wilson will be the best player in the 2026 NBA draft. You heard it here first. Number 4, I have Cameron Boozer from Duke. Going to Chicago. 6'9", 250 pounds, 19 years old, 7'1". Another freshman in the top 4. All 4 freshmen. That's how great this freshman class is. Cameron Boozer is just a straight up winner. You can make an argument he should go maybe number 3 to Memphis. He's one of the most polished offensive big men in the draft class. He has an NBA ready frame and strength level that should immediately translate to the league. He has an advanced low post scoring game with an array of moves and counters from up and unders to little baby hooks to drop steps. You just don't see that in a teenager this young with that type of polish and be able to finish through contact and have that soft touch at the rim. And he knows how to get to the foul line. He averaged 5.8 free throw attempts per game. This guy's just a smart basketball player. He plays at his own pace. He rarely looks ever sped up offensively. He uses footwork, positioning, timing, and feel rather than overwhelming athleticism to gain an advantage. He already plays with that poise and the processing of an NBA veteran. I think he has the best brain in terms of offensive processing of seeing plays and letting them develop in this entire draft class. He has such an elite basketball IQ and feel for the game. He averaged 4.1 assists per game and 2.5 turnovers per game. He is someone who reminds me a little bit of the Domantas Sabonis, maybe a prime Kevin Love. I remember when I was watching him in high school, I said he reminds me of a little bit of Kevin Love and some Paolo Banchero. That's what he kind of reminds me of in terms of his play style, the outlet passes, the kind of grounded game, not overly athletic, but athletic sometimes can get up and surprise you with athleticism. But I think he's a better processor in terms of creating for his teammates, letting the game come to him. He doesn't really force the issue compared to Banchero of the Magic, but he's an outstanding rebounder, He averaged 10.2 rebounds per game. He can grab and go, grab the rebound and push and initiate the offense in transition. And he makes that advanced reads in the open floor. He can find those open shooters. He can collapse the defense, draw two in, and find an open teammate. He just makes the game so easy for everybody else on the floor for him. I think he'll be an all-star. I don't know about superstar. His shooting ability, 40% from three on 3.5 attempts per game. You need that type of floor spacing ability, and he's proven that at every level. That forces defenders to have to close out on him because they got to respect his shot from the outside. I think that's why he's going to thrive and be great in the modern NBA, because he can shoot that basketball. And that's going to help his offensive flow overall. One thing he needs to improve on is that pull-up jumper, mid-range jumper, get more confident in that. That will raise his ceiling. But he's just a winner with a winner pedigree. And then while I wouldn't say he's going to be a defensive anchor or anything like that, he has strong defensive instincts, great team awareness. I think he'll be a great team defender at the NBA level. He rotates well defensively, and he understands positioning and timing. I think he'll struggle, though, against quicker forwards and guards, pick and roll coverage. I think that's one weakness for him. I don't know if he'll be quick enough to do that, I don't think he's tall enough or explosive enough to anchor full time at the center position. So he's kind of a bit of a tweener. But I think with his IQ, is smarts, I think Boozer projects as a highly skilled offensive front court player whose feel, rebounding, passing, and shooting translate immediately to winning basketball. And I think he'll be, best case scenario, an all-star caliber offensive hub. He elevates teammates through his processing, toughness, and versatility. His floor, I see a highly productive long-term starter because of his IQ, skill level, and winning impact. So I have Kevin Boozer going number 4 to Chicago Bulls. Number 5, this is where the draft to me really starts, because we know who the top 4 prospects are, but to me, it really starts with the Clippers at number 5. Number 5, I have Keaton Wagler, freshman guard out of Illinois, going to Los Angeles Clippers. 6'6", 19 years old, 188 pounds, 6'6" wingspan. Wagler is a guy who was an unknown pretty much last year. He was unheralded. He came out of nowhere. But as this season went on and he started really cooking in Illinois, getting more playing time and his confidence growing, Wagler is a special talent. 6'6", his legitimate size to operate either as a lead guard or off-ball guard at the NBA level. He's a skilled, crafty guard who makes up for his lack of elite athleticism with feel, pace, manipulation. He can dictate a game the way he wants to. He's an elite shooter from deep, 40% from 3 on 6 attempts per game. And according to Hoop Explorer, he averaged 1.24 points per possession, which was 98.5 percentile in college basketball last year. He has legitimate floor space and threat who forces tight defensive attention. His advanced shot making, I think, with his deceptive footwork and pacing to generate separation and effective floaters and step back 3-point creation ability, making a great fit alongside the Clippers. And to me, the Clippers, you don't need another small guard, because I know some people maybe have Darius Acuff going here to the Clippers, but I think with Darius Garland there, it makes no sense in terms of fit wise. So I don't think that's a great fit for them. And Wagler to me is a great talent. I think he fits perfectly with what the Clippers need. They could use another guard, especially a big guard who can play at either position, shooting guard or point guard. And I think he can fit great alongside Garland because he doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. 40% on catch and shoot, 60% off jumpers off the dribble. He has just an array of package of moves that he can utilize. He creates most of his offense through change of pace and footwork rather than pure burst. And he relies on manipulation instead of blow-by speed. He's not someone that's going to wow you with his athleticism. The dude can barely dunk, but he has smooth mechanics, quick release. He just plays at his own speed, strong decision maker in pick and roll situations, 4.2 assists per game to 1.8 turnovers per game. He had a 2.3 assist to turnover ratio. He averaged 7.5 assists per 100 possessions to 3.2 turnovers per 100 possessions. So this is a guy who does a pretty good job taking care of the basketball, even with the usage rate he had at Illinois. And I think at the NBA level, I think he's going to play more of the two. He'll maybe occupy some lead guard duties at the NBA level, depending on where he goes. I see him as a guy who will probably start his career as an off-ball guard, play more off the ball and occasionally on the ball. I just think he's going to be someone who can be a solid NBA player. I don't know if he'll be a superstar. I can see all-star. One thing that worries me, though, is he's not an elite athlete. He doesn't have great speed. He's not going to value catching lobs or anything like that or dunking over defenders because he had 0 dunks in the college season. This is a guy who I kind of worry. Can he put pressure on the rim? Can he, collapse the defense and get to the rim? Those are some things I kind of worry about with him. He doesn't put that consistent force and pressure on the rim, which I think will kind of hurt him at the NBA level if he doesn't improve that. And he also has a slim frame. He is 185 pounds. He needs to get dramatically stronger if he wants to reach his potential. I think defensively, he'll be a team defender more than a point of attack stopper. He's going to rely on team defense, positioning, anticipation, and scheme rather than being that one-on-one defensive type elite defender. So overall, I think he's going to be a high-skilled guard who impacts winning through shooting, IQ, and decision-making. His swing skill to me will be determined by whether he can improve his first step burst and rim pressure creation and overall getting stronger. To me, he reminds me of Tyrese Halliburton. And some people said SGA. I do see a little SGA in his game. Wagler's a high-floor NBA guard who fits multiple backcourt roles due to his size, shooting, and processing ability, and his ceiling will determine whether he can overcome his athletic limitations and pressure the rim more consistently. I think his best-case outcome is an all-star type guard, starting caliber offensive guard. His floor, a rotational, spacing, secondary playmaking guard. Number 6, we have the Brooklyn Nets here, and I have them selecting Darius Acuff, the guard out of Arkansas. Darius Acuff was the next great guard in the lineage of elite Calipari guards. 6'3", 190 pounds, built like a pit bull at 19 years old with a 6'7" wingspan. He plays with that poise, confidence, and swagger you rarely see from a young guard. Dynamic 3-level scorer, could generate offense from anywhere on the floor. He finished 58% at the rim, and he's not a high flyer. He was going up against trees at the collegiate level and finishing almost 6% at the rim. He operates comfortably in the mid-range. He's a capable perimeter shot maker. He has that offensive confidence, shot-making ability that allows him to control stretches of a game completely. I was watching that Alabama game a couple months ago where he dropped 49 points and that game went to overtime, and he was playing hurt that game. And I said, this kid is tough as nails. The shot-making he was doing, the way he was getting to the foul line, the threes that he made in big situations and big moments. I think he has that same type of swag, that calm confidence, similar to an AI, similar to a Kyrie Irving. I think he's going to be that next point guard in terms of appeal and box office that people are going to want to get his shoes one day. I think he's going to be a star in this league. He's an advanced scorer. He has a deep repertoire of moves and counters. He has a nice floater. That's something you need, especially as a guard. He can separate from hesitations he has change of pace. He has great shiftiness. He doesn't rely on athleticism because he's not an elite athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but his utilization of various moves from hesitations, his shiftiness with his handling ability is what's going to help him create separation at the NBA level. He shot 44% on 141 isolation plays last year for Arkansas. He knows how to slow down the tempo. He knows when to speed it up. He knows how to pace things well, and he plays at his own speed. He knows how to keep those defenders off bounce because you don't know if he's going to pull up from 3 or if he's going to attack the rim or when he's going to kick it up a gear or decelerate. He is comfortable creating difficult late clock offense when possessions break down, and he's fearless in clutch situations. There's so many times throughout the course of this college basketball season where Acuff came up big in big situations and he was fearless. And he's also an elite playmaker. He's not just a scorer. He has natural vision as a lead guard, especially you want that as your point guard. He can dictate a tempo. He can control the game at his pace. He averaged 6.4 assists per game to 2.2 turnovers per game. That's almost a 3 assist to turnover ratio. This is a guy who had a massive usage rate, 29.5% usage rate. He was handling so much of the offensive initiating duties while at Arkansas, and he took care of the basketball. That's what you look for in a guard. And if I'm an organization, especially the Nets, you need someone who fans want to come to see, and you're trying to say you don't want to be a lottery team next year, you want to compete, this is a guy who can help you compete. I'm not saying you're going to make the playoffs next year, but this is a guy who could get you to the right direction. With Mikel Brown Jr. there, Nate Claxton, a rolling big man, that pick and roll duo right there, that can be something special. He has that level of efficiency and decision-making that I think he can handle such a high offensive workload. I think that's what really separates him from many people in this draft. He was just the second player in the SEC history to lead the conference in both points and assists simultaneously, joining Pistol Pete Maravich. And he's the only freshman guard since 80-81 to average 23 or more points, 6 assists while shooting over 45% from the field and 40% from deep. He needs to become a better defender. That's some of his limitations. He has a small frame, but I think he's strong. He has a stocky build. I think that will help him. But one-on-one situations, I kind of worry about him defensively. Will he be someone you have to hide defensively? We'll see. But at the end, I think overall, Acuff is a high-level offensive lead guard prospect with elite scoring versatility and playmaking ability that can run your NBA offense. I think the best case outcome for him is franchise caliber offensive engine capable of controlling games. That's both the scorer and the facilitator. Worst outcome, I could see maybe a starter who is defensive liability, who can still get you buckets and be a playmaker for you, or maybe coming off your bench as a secondary unit guy. But with his confidence, I just don't see that happen. I think he's going to be a star. He reminds me of Stephon Marbury. I see Damian Lillard. I do see a little bit of Allen Iverson. He's going to be a special talent, and if the Nets get him at number 6, again, somebody special. Number 7, Kingston Flemings, Houston, 6'4", 190 pounds, 19 years old, 6'3". He's one of the quickest guards in the class, elite north to south burst. He might be the quickest guard amongst the freshman guards in this class. He constantly puts pressure on defenses. He gets downhill and collapses the paint. He just changes the geometry of the defense the moment he touches the ball. His acceleration and pace control, his sudden movements of burst, acceleration, change of pace, keep defenders off bounds. I think that's what's going to make him special at the NBA level. I think he thrives in transition, where his speed becomes nearly uncontainable, especially once he gets a full head of steam. And he's elite at attacking initial point of attack defenders. He can put pressure on the rim. He has a nice mid-range pull-up. He has the capability to hit shots from the outside. He was 50% on 2s, 48% overall, 38% from 3 on 3 attempts per game nearly. And I think he's someone that can score on all 3 levels. He's a dangerous downhill scorer, 55% at the rim this past year. And he's comfortable at stopping on a dime and hitting those mid-range pull-up jumpers over defenders, which is what you want to see from your guard, especially in today's NBA where you got to be able to shoot the basketball. Playmaking wise, I think he'll be a solid secondary playmaker who can punish defenses when they collapse on his drives. He can use acceleration to force rotations, and then he can find those shooters on kickouts based on dump offs and lobs. He was 5.2 assists per game, 1.8 turnovers per game, 2.9 assist turnover ratio. Flemings did a pretty good job taking care of the basketball, and that's something I want to see from my point guard. I think he's a better defender than Wagler and Acuff. Flemings might be the best point guard defender in this draft. He has strong weak side instincts. He has quick feet, 1.5 steals per game. His anticipation to generate steals and disruptions is almost second to none in this class. I think he's someone that's going to be a pest defensively at the NBA level. He does need to get stronger. He's an inconsistent shooter, especially from 3, especially with a low volume from 3s. We'll have to improve that to become more of a modern NBA guard. And despite him being so athletic, I would like to see him embrace contact more and get to the rim more. He only averaged 3 free throws per game, and he had a 26% usage rate. So you want to see that go up. But overall, I think he's going to end up being an explosive guard whose value is built around pace, pressure, and advantage creation rather than isolation, scoring, polish. I think the best case for him, I don't know if I see him being an all-star. I could see him being a solid starting caliber lead guard who I think can consistently destabilize a defense, and his floor, rotational guard, who can contribute energy, speed, and secondary creation. To me, he reminds me of De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Maxey. His speed, horizontally, north to south, is going to be amongst the best in the league. And I think Flemings could be that guy for the Sacramento Kings, as they desperately need somebody who can inject some energy back into that fan base. So I have him going number 7 to Sacramento Kings. Number 8, I have Brayden Burries, guard out of Arizona, to the Atlanta Hawks. 6'4", 215 pounds, 20 years old, 6'6" wingspan. He's a strong, stocky combo guard. He has an NBA ready frame already. The dude's a grown man already. He can operate either on or off the ball. And I love those type of players because you could put him in many situations, many organizations, because they could play almost anywhere. He was one of the most efficient freshman guards in the class last year. 49% from the field, 39% from 3, 61% true shooting percentage, which was the best among freshman guards last year. He's a reliable perimeter threat with strong mechanics who can score off the catch, attacking closeouts, or creating secondary actions as a complementary scorer who can take it off the glass and push it out in transition. He shot 38% on guarded catch and shoot triples and 40% on guarded contests on nearly 5 attempts per game. I think he has solid shooting mechanics that project well at the NBA level, and he doesn't waste possessions and consistently makes winning plays within the flow of the offense. He plays with his tremendous pace and control. He doesn't look sped up. He keeps defenses off balance with his change of speed and shot making ability. He shots 46% on 2s out of the pick and roll and 43% on 3s. He processes the game well and understands how to play within structure, knowing when to attack or to defer. He's a relatively seamless fit alongside other high usage players. That's why I think going to the Hawks, he doesn't have to be the franchise guy. He can be a good fit amongst Nickeil Alexander-Walker, alongside CJ McCollum, Kongwu, Jalen Johnson, all those guys. He'd be a good guy off the bench. He's a versatile combo guard, could defend either backcourt position due to his physicality, instincts, and sturdy 6'4" frame. And he's a disruptive defender, 1.5 steals per game, 2.7% steal rate, and he had a plus 5.7 defensive box plus minus. So he shows up both defensively and offensively. He can sit in that chair and stay attached at the point of attack, and that's what you need from your guards, especially at the NBA level. You need people to win championships. You got to be able to guard. And Burries does that. I think he could be one of those ultimate role players in the NBA. He moves well laterally. He can navigate screens effectively. And he uses his strength to prevent guards from dislodging him easily. I think best case scenario, he's a starting caliber two-way guard who scores efficiently, defends multiple backcourt spots, fits seamlessly at a high-level connector next to stars. And in his floor, I see maybe a rotational guard who can provide efficient scoring, secondary playmaking, and defensive versatility without needing high usage to impact winning. He reminds me of Derek White of the Boston Celtics. I see some Jared McCain in him as well, and a little bit of Jamal Murray due to his ability to get hot from his scoring ability. So those are the players he reminds me of. I think he's going to be a guy that can immediately come in, impact the game on both ends of the court. I don't see a superstar from him at all, or maybe even an all-star, but I think he can be a guy who played in NBA for a long time, 15 years or so, who can be a two-way impact player and help a team win championships. At number 9, I have Mikel Brown Jr., guard at Louisville, going to the Dallas Mavericks. 6'5", 220 pounds, 20 years old with a 6'7.5" wingspan. Mikel Brown Jr. fits perfectly with the Dallas Mavericks as they desperately need another shot creator in the backcourt to pair with Cooper Flagg and Kyrie Irving. He's a jumbo-sized combo guard with rare talent that combines elite shot-making ability, positional size, and above-average athleticism compared to his lead guard contemporaries in this class. Despite having lower back injuries last season that impacted his efficiency, he showed great flashes at Louisville as a dynamic scorer and creator, averaging 18.2 points per game per 100 possessions. He's a dynamic off-the-bounce scorer who can generate his own looks by crafting angles at the rim and creating separation in the mid-range. He has a knack for drawing contact and getting to the charity stripe, averaging 5.8 free throw attempts per game, which ranked 7th amongst freshman guards last season. When healthy, his ability to create shots out of nothing is immediately impressive amongst this lead guard group of prospects in this year's class. He has legitimate vertical pop and explosive leaping ability that allows him to finish above the rim with force and convert plays other guards in this class simply can't make. He also has shown the ability to be a playmaker and initiate offense, as he averaged 4.7 assists per game, which shows the ability to be a potential secondary playmaker in the NBA offense. He'll need to show that he could be durable, as he had missed 14 games this past season with a lower back injury. Hopefully that's not a long-term concern when it comes to his prospects as a player. And he needs to clean up his turnovers, 3.1 turnovers per game to 4.7 assists. His efficiency also took a major dip last year, with 41% from the field and 34% from three. Over half his volume comes from perimeter attempts as he became too complacent with the three-point shot. He needs to continue to improve his mid-range game as he's too heavily reliant on rim attempts or deep perimeter shots, which isn't always the best shot selection. He'll need to get stronger as he kind of has a slight frame if he wants to be able to handle contact at the rim and improve defensive stability. Overall, I think he's a high-end talent and scoring upside, but he remains one of the biggest boom or bust prospects in this class. I think the best case scenario, he's a dynamic league combo guard and high-level shot creator who can pressure defenses downhill, create offense for others, and become a primary offensive engine. And then on the low end, I see maybe an inconsistent scoring guard whose efficiency, turnovers, and defensive concerns prevent him from scaling into a major on-ball role. Kind of reminds me of CJ McCollum in terms of his ability to get to the rim. I think he's more athletic than CJ McCollum. I think he'll end up being a solid three-point shooter as he continues to get more efficient. But if he can get that mid-range game, he'll be very special. So he makes sense here for the Dallas Mavericks, who desperately could use another guard. At number 10, I have Aday Mara, the center from the Michigan Wolverines, going to the Milwaukee Bucks. 7'3", 260 pounds, 21 years old with a 7'7" wingspan. This makes sense here for the Milwaukee Bucks to try to move off Giannis Antetokounmpo in the post-Giannis era, as there's a lot of rumors that he's eventually going to get moved this offseason. So the Bucks could use somebody who has a high upside. Mara possesses a tremendous feel for the game with a large, well-proportioned frame. He has great natural passing instincts, both out of the post and from the top of the key. He's an efficient offensive player, 81% finishing at the rim with a 67% true shooting percentage. He consistently converts easy offense and understands how to play within the flow of an offense without forcing the issue. He has a soft touch and soft hands with strong coordination that allows him to catch difficult passes cleanly and finish efficiently around the rim. While he's not an elite athlete, he has enough mobility and coordination to finish above the rim, and he projects as an effective pick-and-roll rim runner at the NBA level due to his size and length. He has a reliable drop-step move over either shoulder that could immediately translate as a go-to offensive counter at the next level. Defensively, he projects as a legitimate rim deterrent and potential defensive anchor once he adds more strength physically. He put up elite shot blocking production while at Michigan, 2.5 blocks per game with a 12% block percentage. He was the only NCAA player last season to average 2.5 blocks per game while starting at least 25 games. His size, timing, and instincts allow him to impact games defensively without elite athleticism. Mara will need to get stronger in his lower body. He tends to get pushed off his spot at times, and that will eventually be something that he might struggle with against NBA bigs and guards due to his high center of gravity. He doesn't project as an elite floor spacer, despite flashing potential during the season. He shot just 30% from three-point range on only 10 attempts. He'll need to be able to space the floor and become more confident shooting from deep in the modern NBA game. And he also needs to become more conditioned, as mobility could be an issue with him, especially when guarding out in space and pick and roll coverages due to his lack of elite lateral quickness. He reminds me of Donovan Clingan, a little bit of Pau Gasol due to his passing ability, and Zydrunas Ilgauskas on those early Cavalier days with LeBron James. So I think he could be someone that could potentially be a high-end, solid starting big man, maybe even a fringe all-star if everything goes right. But if not, I think he could be a solid rotational big that could be a defensive anchor, protect the rim, and be an elite offensive, maybe a solid offensive hub in the high post who could find teammates and make them better. At number 11, I have Labaro Philon, the guard from Alabama, going to the Golden State Warriors. 6'3", 176 pounds, 20 years old with a 6'6" wingspan. This makes sense for the Golden State Warriors as they need a guard and somebody who can take pressure off Stephen Curry. As you've seen over these last few years, there's nobody to really create offense for themselves outside Stephen Curry and become too Curry-centric, especially last season. And we saw that with the Golden State Warriors. Philon makes sense here because he can create his own shot. He made a clear leap as the offensive engine from freshman to sophomore season, while at Alabama, where he took on a larger role while maintaining and improving his efficiency and vision as a floor general. His field goal percentage improved from 45% to 50%, and his three-point percentage was over 40% as a sophomore. He increased his assists and his assist percentage in the sophomore season at Alabama. He's not an elite vertical athlete or a speed demon, but he plays with an excellent pace, body control, and change of rhythm. He utilizes different hesitation dribbles and tempo shifts to manipulate defenders and create clean driving angles. He's elite at manipulating pick and roll situations and finding teammates in tight gaps for shots at the rim. And he has a refined Eurostep package that helps him freeze defenders and finish creatively through contact at the rim. He's elite at hedging the help defender over while rejecting screens that open up driving lanes for him. And he has quick hands that allow him to pickpocket his opponent as he averaged 2 steals per game while at Alabama. So my concerns with Philon is his slight frame. He weighed just 176 pounds. How will he handle the rigors of an 82-game season against stronger, more physical NBA guards? That's something he'll need to address coming into the NBA. He doesn't have elite burst or vertical pop, which limits his separation against high-level NBA defenders and makes finishing over rim protectors more difficult when the paint is crowded. And he doesn't always fight over screens defensively and doesn't display much resistance as a defender. He can get where he wants at lower levels, but the NBA length will shrink his margin for error, which is something I'm kind of concerned about. But he plays with a real confidence as a creator and has that aggression. And my best case scenario for him, I think he can end up being a starting caliber lead guard who can control the tempo, generate efficient offense through his craft and IQ, and functions as a reliable creator in a modern offensive system. His floor, I see a rotational guard who provides secondary playmaking, pace control, and occasional scoring bursts, but struggles with consistency and physical matchups at the NBA level. I can see his ceiling maybe being a Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers, who's turned into an all-star and NBA level guard at the NBA level. And the floor, I could maybe see a Lou Williams, who was a six-man microwave-type bench scorer in the NBA. And I think the Warriors could use a guy like that just to take some pressure off Steph Curry, who can create his own offense and generate offense for others. So Philon going to the Warriors, I think makes perfect sense here for the Golden State Warriors. Number 12, I have Hannes Steinbach, the forward from Washington, going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Standing 6'11", 248 pounds, 20 years old, with a 7'2" wingspan. He's one of the top international big prospects in this draft, hailing from Germany. He blends great size, skill, and modern versatility. He plays with guard-like comfort for a front court player. He's able to put the ball on the floor, face up, and operate in space. He's a highly efficient offensive player. 63% true shooting percentage, averaging over 18 points per game. He has strong mobility and bounce for his size, which allow him to run the floor, stay active in transition, and finish above the rim when opportunities arise. He also was an elite finisher at the rim, 68% finishing at the rim. He was a dominant rebounder with elite instincts and timing, as he averaged 11.8 rebounds per game, and he was the only player nationally averaging 18 plus points and 11 rebounds, which led the nation this season. He has a strong frame, which should be ready for the NBA right away at 248 pounds, which will allow him to establish good post position, especially against small defenders, and finish through contact. He's a versatile offensive big with rim runner, elite pick and roll potential, and can pop into space as well. He's not yet an elite three-point shooter, as he only had 1.8 attempts per game and shot 34% from three, but he has flashed that potential. Defensively, he might be solid, but he'll never be a true defensive anchor at the NBA level. He had 1.1 steals and 1.2 blocks per game. He'll be a good, solid team defender, but I don't ever see him being a true defensive anchor that you could hang your defense. Overall, I think Steinbach is a highly productive modern-day big man who impacts winning through his efficiency, his rebounding dominance, and versatility as an offensive player. He's a strong finisher, strong positional rebounder, and he's a growing pick-and-roll weapon with legitimate offensive value. I think his projection projects based on his shooting and whether his defensive impact can rise to potential anchor-level consistency. The best-case scenario for me is he'll be a starter NBA big man who can consistently produce double-doubles, operate as a pick-and-roll hub, and develop enough shooting where he's a threat, where defenses have to respect his outside shot, along with defensive stability to be a long-term front-court starter. Worst-case scenario, he's a high-level rotational big who provides rebounding, interior scoring, and energy, but lacks shooting, gravity, and elite defensive anchoring ability to stay on the floor in high-leverage matchups. He reminds me a little bit of Kevin Love due to his NBA-ready body. I don't think he's as good of a shooter as Kevin Love, maybe not in his prime, but obviously coming out of college, he does flash that ability to be able to shoot the three ball. He's a really strong rebounder, and I think that could be his best case scenario. I think he end up being maybe a potential Kevin Love type player if everything goes right. And I think he could end up being one of the steals of this draft class. And then you think about having him with the Thunder, paired with Chet Holmgren, paired with Isaiah Hartenstein. I think he could fit perfectly within that system, playing with J-Dub, SGA, because he's going to be a guy who's going to get second chance opportunities for them. He could be a guy who could step out and hit the three-pointer because SGA is going to collapse the defense and he's going to have wide open looks. It's a perfect fit for the Thunder if I'm getting a guy like Steinbach, and he adds more depth to them. I think he could be an upgrade from Jalen Williams, not the other Jalen Williams who was an NBA guy, the other Jalen Williams who was on the bench. He can be an upgrade for them because I think he's a better offensive player than him and an even better rebounder. So Steinbach going to the Thunder makes sense here. Number 13, I have Yaxel Lendeborg, forward from Michigan, going to the Miami Heat. 6'9", 23 years old, 240 pounds with a 7'3" wingspan. He makes sense here for the Miami Heat because he just fits the Miami Heat culture. He played injured through the last two games of the NCAA tournament, the Final Four and the national championship. He dragged his way to play for his team, even though he wasn't 100%. And that is what you want to see. And if I'm the Miami Heat, I look at a guy like that who has that toughness and that mentality to want to win, to do the little things. And Lendeborg fix the Miami Heat culture. He's a multi-dimensional, skilled forward who impacts every facet of the game. He's an aggressive downhill attacker who gets to the rim with purpose and finishes at an elite rate, 73% at the rim. He has an array of finishes, whether through contact above the rim or with a crafty touch using either hand. He's an efficient offensive player with polished shot mechanics. 51% from the field, 37% from three on 4.5 attempts per game, with a 60.2 effective field goal percentage. He doesn't need high usage to impact winning. He plays well without the ball. He can score efficiently, play within the flow of an offense, and consistently makes the right play. And if I'm Eric Spoelstra Miami Heat, if he's there at number 13, I take a guy like him. He's an elite competitor with rare toughness and winning intangibles. And he's one of the best development stories in college basketball history. 3 seasons at the JUCO level, 2 years at UAB, and then he eventually became a Big Ten Player of the Year and a national champion. His steady improvement year after year suggests there's some untapped upside there despite entering the league as an older prospect. He's a versatile defender who can guard positions 1 through 4 and maybe even small ball 5s in certain lineups. He led the Big Ten in defensive win shares. He was top 5 in defensive rating, and he had a 2.9 steal percentage with a 4.4 block percentage. He has outstanding help side instincts, active hands, strong screen navigation, with a relentless motor that shows up in transition and loose ball situations. And if you pair him with Bam Adebayo in that front court defensively, you're going to wreak havoc as a Miami Heat organization. And he could be a positive on the offensive end as well. And not only that, he's a solid player this year as well. He had 3.1 assists to turnover ratio, and he could be a tertiary operating offenses who makes smart plays and values the basketball. And then when I look at his game, I don't really see much weaknesses or really any weaknesses in Lendeborg's game. When I watched the tape, when I watched him throughout the season, there's not one thing that really was a glaring weakness when I looked at his game. He can shoot, he can handle, he defends, he makes winning plays, he hustles. The only thing you can really say is his age, is that he's one of the oldest players in this class, and he's the oldest projected lottery pick in the draft. If he was 19, 20 years old with his array of skills, we'd be talking about him as a potential top 5 pick if he was 19, 20 years old. He is that legitimate and that versatile. And if I'm the Miami Heat, this is another guy I see being potential steal in this class. He's a modern two-day forward who can defend multiple positions, finish efficiently, rebound, make connective plays, and contribute to winning without needing the offense built around him. And I think he can end up the best case, versatile starting caliber forward who fills the stat sheet, multiple positions, and impact winning in a role similar to a hybrid of Josh Hart and Aaron Gordon. Those guys who can defend multiple positions, who impact winning without needing the basketball. And I think Lendeborg could fall into that archetype player. And then the floor for him, I see a high-end rotation forward who provides defensive versatility, efficient scoring, rebounding, and winning intangibles off the bench. I think Lendeborg is going to be a solid NBA veteran, guy who plays 15 years and who just does all the little things to help a team win. I think he's a championship caliber player, and I think whoever gets him is going to be real happy as an NBA organization. At number 14 now, I have Morez Johnson Jr., the forward from Michigan, going to the Charlotte Hornets. 6'10", 250 pounds, 20 years old with a 7'3.5" wingspan. He makes sense here for the Charlotte Hornets, who desperately need some big man size down low. As we saw in that play-in game against Orlando Magic, they got pummeled in the paint offensively and defensively on the glass. The Orlando Magic were getting whatever they wanted and get into the rim, and then they couldn't get any rebounds to save their life. And they need a guy who they can put in that interior, be physical to match up with the physical big teams in NBA. And Johnson makes perfect sense here. He's a physical, high-energy big who plays with force, motor, and constant activity on both ends of the floor. He brings a clear identity as a rebounder, screener, and rim finisher. He averaged 7.3 rebounds per game with a 16.3 rebound percentage, and he has an elite rebounding presence with his real physical dominance. He knows how to get positioning, he pursues second chance opportunities, and he consistently finishes possessions on a defensive glass. He can impact games without needing touches due to his rebounding and energy that shift momentum of games. He's a strong interior finisher who plays through contact and excels as a lob threat and roll man. And he excels in simple, high-efficiency actions, rim rolls, dump-offs, putbacks, and short area finishes. And I think that pairs perfectly with a LaMelo Ball, who is one of the best passers in the league and is really good at the pick and roll, especially playing with lob threats. And I think Johnson can benefit off LaMelo Ball, and they'll make each other better. He brings toughness and physicality that translates immediately from setting hard screens, battling in the paint, and plays with a relentless motor every possession. He projects as a strong interior defender with physical tools and effort-based impact. He can use his strength and timing to wall up at the rim, contain straight-line drives, and compete as a help-side shot blocker. He brings consistent effort as a low-man defender and rebounder in defensive rotations. The one thing I'm worried about with Johnson, he has a limited offensive skill package outside the paint. He's not a perimeter shooting threat. He needs to be set up to score consistently, and he can struggle with spacing in modern offensive systems where bigs are expected to stretch the floor. But I think he's somebody who we're not going to be really looking at him as an offensive threat. I think he's someone who's going to have a long NBA career based on his energy on the boards, his defensive impact, and as a rim runner. I think overall he's going to be a high motor, physical interior big whose value comes from his rebounding, screening, rim finishing, and defensive effort. He doesn't need plays to call for him to impact winning, and he thrives off energy, hustle, and physical dominance around the basket. My best case scenario for him, he's going to be a starting caliber energy big who anchors a bench or starting front court rotation, who can dominate the glass, finish everything inside, and become a reliable defensive presence in the paint. Worst case scenario, I think he's a situational backup big man who provides rebounding, screens, and energy, but is limited by spacing concerns and lacks offensive versatility to stay on the floor in certain matchups and situations. He reminds me of Clint Capella and Isaiah Jackson. And I think the best case scenario for him is Clint Capella during his Houston Rockets years with James Harden. And I think him with LaMelo Ball in Charlotte is the perfect fit for him based on his skill set, what they need. And I think he's someone who could bring them exactly what they need, especially when it comes to physicality, rebounding, and just a presence and energy on the inside, because they got manhandled in that playing game against the Orlando Magic, and it really exposed what they lack, and they got exploited. So Johnson Jr., Michigan, makes perfect sense here for Charlotte Hornets. And if I'm them, he's the perfect pick. Well, that's going to do it for the first episode here on Hardware Hoops with your host, DJ Hamilton, presented by the DJ Sports Show. If you guys haven't already, make sure to click that like, subscribe button, share anybody you know who loves sports, especially if you love basketball. This will be my main basketball channel only for hoops junkies and lovers. And I just want to say, if you got to this point, thank you guys for listening, especially towards the visual. I didn't really have as much time as I wanted to do the visual clips and highlights of the players, with the draft just a few days away, and I wanted to get this out. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you guys who have supported me throughout this journey as I go on this new journey now and creating this new channel. So I just want to say thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. This means a lot to me, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. Stay tuned for the second part of my first round mock draft, where we finish the first round and get into the rest of the prospects in this 2026 NBA draft. Without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Hamilton, and you listen to Hardware Hoops, presented by DJ Sports Show, where we talk all hoops all the time. And I'll see y'all next time.